here. So Heidi, we are good to begin that recording. Fantastic. Just to let everybody know, we will be recording today's session. But first and foremost, good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining and attending the Innovative in Spectrum Masterclass for today. Today's masterclass will be centered around everything in the data transport realm. And we feel you'll find this masterclass to be very rich and informative, but we do have a few asks before kicking off the presentation. So number one, just make sure to limit background noise for disruptions by muting your microphone during the presentation, just out of respect to the presenter and then also to the attendees. But feel free to ask any and all questions in the chat or during any type of Q&A session that we have at the end of the presentation if there's still time remaining. We will have a series of knowledge checks throughout the presentation. We're going to have 7 knowledge checks in total. They're going to be chat-based knowledge checks. Okay, so whoever gets the correct answer first will receive a $25 gift card for each knowledge check. So you have some opportunities to win a little bit of cash, but it's going to be putting the right answer in the chat, and whoever has that first right answer will win that $25 gift card. And then finally, just really focus on being engaged and participative. These master classes are really only as valuable as your attention, and there's really a ton of great info to absorb and enhance your future sales. Now, with that being said, we have 3 presenters today. We have Jim Boyer, who's our Enterprise Technical Sales Consultant, along with Jason Oliver, who's our Enterprise Technical Sales Consultant. And then finally, Andy Gibson, who is a sales engineer. So with that being said, go ahead and mute your microphones, and we'll go ahead and jump in with our first presenter. Go ahead and take it away, Jim.
Well, thank you, Richard, and thank you, everybody, for joining today. And we're definitely going to go through some conversation around different types of transport and different ways that we find in the industry that there's different requirements for different applications and how Spectrum kind of fits into that. So I'll be going through most of the presentation. Like Richard said, there'll be several different knowledge checks as we go through this. And Jason Oliver, my counterpart, will be jumping in and going over the knowledge checks. So let's dive right in here. Let me see. There we go. All right. So again, the topic today is transport. You know, that topic can mean a lot of different things. I think in our industry today, when we get into internet, wide area networks, there are variations of different types of circuits that different customers need. Some are more mission critical SLA based type stuff. Some are more best effort, and usually, as we know, cost is different depending on how we do that. But I think what's important to understand when you're working with a client is if they have multiple locations or even a single site, based on their requirements or the need for reliability is going to depend on what type of circuit you select and what's the right fit for that individual client. When you get into multi-site stuff, obviously you get into the wide area networks. There's different methods there as well, and we're going to go through some of those here today on the call. So diving right in. First of all, I just want to start with a couple new things that Spectrum has recently announced that I want to make you guys aware of. One is within the last couple months, we went to 100% uptime SLA on all of our fiber circuits. So anytime you're selling a Spectrum fiber internet, Spectrum Ethernet, anything fiber related, we now have 100% uptime on that. And what that really means is we're backing that up with some service credits. So for example, if they're over 16 hours of downtime, we're going to pay them 100% back of that monthly recurring cost. And then there's also some latency jitter packet delivery metrics as well that if we are not keeping up with those metrics, we're going to provide some costs back to the client. I believe right now we are one of the only carriers that is offering 100% uptime SLA. So that's fairly new. Another thing that this is just a recent change in the last month. So in the past, everybody calls internet something different. We, over the last many years, called it fiber internet access, or FIA has been the acronym. Well, we're now going to a new naming convention on our internet called Dedicated Fiber Internet, or DFI. So remember that DFI is kind of what we're calling our dedicated fiber internet. In the past, it was FIA, fiber internet access. And we'll dive more into the different types of circuits and how most businesses are using some of those different applications today. As of last month, we have just launched a new bundle. This is a fiber internet circuit, and we are bundling in a managed Cisco Meraki firewall. So in the past, this would be a separate line item. If the customer needed a managed firewall in that equation, we would price those up as 2 line items, and there'd be a cost for each one. What we've done is simplified that. We made it easy for all of you. It's a simple line item, a simple monthly recurring cost, and we are bundling in that Cisco Meraki managed firewall that your client can use for their security needs. And it's all bundled in at a great price on a monthly recurring. So that's very new, and you guys should be able to quote that now. And there's other options that we can add on to that when customers get into more requirements in their LAN and WAN with hardware and Wi-Fi and things like that. So that's new. SDFI is the acronym, Secure Dedicated Fiber Internet, Cisco Meraki Managed Firewall. Also, within the last several months, we recently launched 5G cellular as another option in the cellular space. So prior to that, we always sold a 4G option, and 4G is good for a lot of different applications, but for clients that are needing more bandwidth and they're needing that to be more of an active circuit versus backup, the 5G options much better. We can actually do a static IP address on that 5G option as well. Now, where I see a lot of traction in the cellular side of things, one is if you guys are dealing with any small business or retail where they have credit card machines, it's mission critical for that business to make sure that service is staying up and running. And cellular is a great option as a secondary backup. Most retail small business might be running a coax connection, low cost, not as reliable as a fiber, but we can create a secondary connection using cellular as a backup. So backing up credit card machines is a great option. Utilizing this as just a secondary circuit for backup in an SD-WAN environment is also a great application for cellular. Basically, this can also be sold as a standalone internet connection as well. So for example, I have a bunch of construction sites. It's hard for me to get any cabling to those sites. You can stand up unlimited premium 5G service, and that can be the customer's primary internet connection at sites where maybe I have difficulty getting cable there, or let's say it's going to take me 120 days to do a fiber build, and the business needs to open up, and I need internet service in there quickly. this 5G option is a good option. We can sell that on a month-to-month basis if needed. And coax is also an option we can use as well in some of those situations. So those are great applications for the cellular space. All right, I'm going to turn this over to Jason, who'll run through this first knowledge check.
Thanks, Jim. Jason Oliver here. Good morning. I'm the technical sales consultant for all the partners in the Western region. So here we go. Knowledge check number 1. Which statements are true? What are some good business applications for deploying cellular internet services into your customer's network? A, backup connection for credit card machines. B, used as a standalone internet connection for business. C, used for secondary SD-WAN connection for multi-site networking. D, all of the above. Please put the answer in the chat.
I think Chris
Okay.
got that answer in almost a quarter of a second there. Very impressive, Chris.
Good job, Chris.
Hey, look, we didn't make this hard for you guys. A lot of these are softball, but they do get a little harder as we go through. So that was an easy one. So we'll move on to the next one, Jason.
All right. What hardware is bundled into the new Spectrum Secure Dedicated Fiber Internet, or SDFI? A, Cisco managed router. B, Fortinet managed SD-WAN device. C, Cisco Meraki managed firewall. D, SonicWall managed firewall.
Chris is cleaning up here.
Good for him. All right, we good to move on? Okay.
I think we're good, Jim. Yep.
All right, thank you. So another thing I want everyone to be aware of, because a lot of people may not know, but when you sell a Spectrum fiber circuit, whether it's Ethernet, fiber internet, or some of the other enterprise type services that we sell, there is a web portal that gives customers visibility into their circuits. It will give them both upload and download utilization reports. They can do all of their online ticketing in there. They can capture, like if they're purchasing things like hosted voice and other services from Spectrum, including like the Cisco Meraki managed firewall that we're selling in our SDFI product. All of that is visible in this web portal. And I just want to make you aware that these portals are very user-friendly. They're very useful. And you can bring a lot of multiple services together, have that visibility into your utilization, and very helpful. A lot of people don't know this is out there available. And when customers have visibility into this, it really helps them understand what's going on in their network. All right, so we're now going to dive a little deeper into hybrid networks. And what does that really mean? I think what's important to understand is a lot of people think Spectrum is only being sold in footprint or in certain territories throughout the country. But in reality, with the ability to do type 2 services or even do an aggregation, we have the ability to pretty much deploy a fiber circuit anywhere in the domestic US. And most businesses today, when they're getting more applications in the cloud, purchasing software, internet is becoming more mission critical for those businesses. And even building wide area networks to build a customer's design in a multi-site environment using a bunch of different vendors only complicates things. One is having multiple vendors. I got, Spectrum at this location. I might have, let's say, AT&T or Lumen at another site. being able to pull in all your locations under a single company, being able to aggregate alternate carrier circuits, doing all that under a single company actually is a huge advantage to businesses. One is it's a lot easier to manage that network. Two, it can all be billed typically on a single bill. Three, the same NOC that's managing one location's managing all the locations. So you're actually doing your clients a favor by trying to utilize a single company when you're deploying multiple sites and multiple types of different circuits as well. So hybrid networks is really being able to utilize both in and out of footprint type circuits, as well as being able to aggregate. So I mentioned aggregation. We call our aggregation where I'm bringing in a third party circuit. So where this is important is there's a lot of businesses now that are trying to make their internet more mission critical, where they're going to use Spectrum as their primary circuit, but yet they want to bring in a redundant alternate carrier for true diversity. That's where we're able to sell another carrier's circuit, and it's 100% their circuit, all the way from their core network into their DMARC. There are times where that's a requirement for a redundant design, and we're able to really design, deploy, manage, and support that 100% through Spectrum. So just keep that in mind with the hybrid network deployment. It's not just an in footprint thing. It's really in and out of footprint is really where we can be effective, and where that really makes sense. Let's say you do have a multi-site customer. If I'll say 30 to 40% of those sites are in our footprint, we're at a great advantage from a competitive standpoint because we're going to be able to be cost effective on the in footprint ones and very competitive even on the ones that we're doing type 2 or finished internet on. We win a lot of deals where we're providing all the locations with a Spectrum network solution, and we're winning those deals not only on the quality of the solution, but also on the pricing in some cases. All right, back to you, Jason, for another knowledge check.
Okay, here we go. When referring to Spectrum's hybrid networks, what transport types are available? A, fiber and coax, B, public and private, C, in and out of footprint, D, all of the above. Looks like we got someone chiming in here. Hybrid networks.
Pretty much everything that I just kind of went through.
Yeah, I believe Chris got that right. Answer C, correct? Both
Answer
in and
is
out
C.
of footprint. Okay.
Yep.
In fact, Chris is cleaning up today. He's gonna win a lot of gift cards.
Yeah, he's gonna take us all out to dinner. All right, here we got another one, Jason.
Okay. What's the difference between Spectrum off-net access and finished internet? A, off-net means the fiber is near the building, and finished internet means that the fiber is already installed at the customer premise. B, off-net access means that it is sold with alternative carriers. Finished internet is aggregating another carrier entire circuit through Spectrum. C, off-net means that we are selling type 2 last mile fiber, and finished internet means that the circuit is being sold and billed through a third party. Looks like someone's chiming in with C. No, we don't. That's not the correct answer.
He's almost there.
I think Camellia got it.
There we go,
B.
Camellia.
Yep. Off-net access means that it's sold with alternative carriers last mile. Finished internet is aggregating another carrier's entire circuit through Spectrum on the Spectrum bill.
Yeah. So guys, the trick on that was Spectrum is still selling, supporting, and billing those aggregated circuits on finished internet. Question C there, the trick there was it's not built through third party, it's actually built through Spectrum. So, all right, good job, team. Let's move on. All right, let's dive into the WAN. All right, so when you get into the WAN, there's variations of different types of fiber services that we can provide, and a lot's going to depend on what your customers' requirements are for. So we have Ethernet, Wave. Some of you may or may not know what a Wave service is, and also Cloud Connect. We'll do a deeper dive on what these are and how customers would use different ones for different applications. So Ethernet, there are different ways to deploy a layer 2 Ethernet solution. And it really depends on where your customer needs to route their traffic or where they're accessing their data. So the initial one here, EPL, that's just a point-to-point Ethernet. But let's say customers only have 2 sites. Point-to-point would be a valid solution. Ethernet is typically used where customers maybe don't want to have internet intertwined in with that for, let's say, security reasons. They might have applications that require low latency because those applications won't necessarily work very well over the internet. Or they may just be using that as a higher speed connection to back up data or do some type of replication. So EPL is point-to-point. Ethernet virtual private line is more of a hub and spoke, where let's say most of my servers are at a hub location and all my remote sites need to just transport back to that main site. That works fine if all my data is going to that one location. And then EP LAN is more of a any-to-any type connectivity. This is where I might need to go from a remote site to a remote site. I don't necessarily need to go back to a main hub. So these are the different types of Ethernet deployments that you will see in a customer's wide area network when they're using Ethernet as a transport option. All right, moving on. Okay, Cloud Connect. So what is Cloud Connect? There are a lot of businesses today moving their applications into public data centers, or they're moving them into places to store data. So they're not doing that in-house, they're utilizing third parties. Cloud Connect allows us to bring an Ethernet connection, a private Ethernet connection, into a public data center. Now, most of the time when you buy public cloud or storage, you're utilizing the internet to get you from your business location into those virtual servers. Cloud Connect allows a business to bring a private connection into those public data centers and gives them more of a public-private connection versus using internet with VPN. So it's going to give them lower latency, dedicated. Now, a big thing to understand here is when businesses are utilizing public cloud for storage, most of y'all probably don't realize, but when they quote the cost of storing data in a data center, they don't realize that that's the cost to put data in. But when you take data out, let's say I'm using one of these data centers to store data, and now I need to pull some of that back out. There are charges to egress that data out of those data centers. And those are unknown costs based on utilization. And sometimes those costs can add up quite a bit. Adding Cloud Connect to your solution where I'm bringing in a private Ethernet connection instead of utilizing the data center's internet, I'm paying for the cost of that circuit, but I'm not paying those egress fees. And businesses that have a lot of egress fees can actually save a lot of money by putting a private Ethernet connection in there using Spectrum Cloud Connect. So think about that when customers are in the cloud. If they're doing storage, Cloud Connect is a good option to get to those virtual servers, and also a method to potentially save money on egress fees on the outbound data. Wavelength. So Wavelength is a service that we sell. Typically, this is going to be 10 gig on up, point-to-point type services. This is going to be very low latency, point-to-point. Businesses will use this where they have big bandwidth demands. We see a lot of this where, let's say they're backing up two of their in-house data centers, and they want to replicate and back up services or pass data back and forth on those big pipes. So Wave service is something we use in certain applications, like I just mentioned, but it's deployed more in a point-to-point type of service. All right. And by the way, everything I'm talking about here can be deployed anywhere throughout the domestic US. It's not an in or out of footprint type of thing. All right, we have a knowledge check. Jason?
All right. Here we go, guys. What are the 3 different WAN network services available both in and out of Spectrum footprint? A, Ethernet, LTE, and coax. Well, we've already got, Camelia already got the correct answer. She's a fast reader. That's correct. Ethernet, Cloud Connect, and Wave WAN services. Good job,
Camille's
Camelia.
coming for you. Coming.
We should have made these harder, but I'm glad people are knocking these out that quick. Here's another one.
All right, here we go. Name at least 2 of the public cloud data center companies that Spectrum can provide private Ethernet Cloud Connect to.
Now, I failed to mention them, but they were in the slide.
It looks like Chris got 2 of them. Or, yep, okay, looks like Chris answered it right off the bat, AWS and Google. So those are 2 public cloud services that we connect to.
Yeah, so the primary ones we support on that are AWS, Azure, Google, and IBM. Okay. We got another.
Congrats, Chris. Okay, name a key advantage of using Spectrum Cloud Connect in a public data center.
Yeah, I talked a
Yep.
lot about this.
There you go. Chris Hall, lower egress fees on data.
There you go. Perfect. It's important to know that because a lot of people don't know that, and businesses don't know that. All right, good job. And I can't see the chat or the video, so I'm glad you guys can see that. All right, I'm going to do a case study now. This is a recent sale that we just did this past month. But the reason I want to touch on this case study is a lot of everything we just talked about. It kind of pulls everything together in a single solution. So anytime you get into a multi-site environment and the customer has different needs, you will utilize several different types of transport to create a solution. And again, it depends on, is this a mission critical location where I need more SLA based type services like fiber? Is it like a retail where maybe coax and LTE cellular is an option? You're going to see different variations of requirements. And when you can bring in those different variations in a solution under a single vendor, that creates a nice solution that's easy to manage and easy to maintain over time. So this particular company, they actually build custom connectors in the automotive space. So they create all these quick connect type connectors, hydraulic lines, make customized brake lines and things like that. They had 6 locations. So initially, this customer was on that Ethernet hub and spoke network where Ethernet was going back to their main site. And they did have internet at each one of those 6 locations, but they utilized that layer 2 Ethernet to get them back to their main site, primarily for the purpose of their centralized PBX. So they had this entire Ethernet network in there just to have a centralized PBX to be able to pass calls around to all the different sites. They had internet needs, and as they moved more things into the cloud, like with Microsoft Office 365 and other type of internet required applications, they found that their internet needs were not keeping up with the demand. So they had like 100 meg internet circuits at most all of those remote sites, but they still had the Ethernet in there for their PBX piece. They needed more bandwidth, and they also needed some redundancy because today they were single threaded. Their internet was single threaded with just one internet pipe, and the wide area network, which was the Ethernet for their PBX, single threaded. If the Ethernet went down, they lost all their sites from a PBX perspective. So after looking at that, understanding it, what we decided to do is we decided to move them into more of an SD-WAN type of deployment where we put 500 megs fiber internet in at each location. That boosted their internet from 100 meg to 500 meg. We're pulling the Ethernet out, and we're going to use SD-WAN to create that virtual wide area network. So what that's doing now with SD-WAN is it's creating a wide area network through the software and the SD-WAN so that I can now utilize my centralized PBX over SD-WAN trunks to create that wide area network. But the other key things we did is we put a coax connection in there as a backup. So now we have fiber internet, Spectrum coax as a secondary. So if my primary goes down at any one of these locations, the coax will kick in as a secondary SD-WAN wide area network. As well as we added 5G cellular to this. Now, this particular design, most customers would probably only do 2 different circuits. This customer needed more redundancy, and they were willing to add cellular 5G as a third backup option that will allow them 3 options to get to the internet, 3 options on the SD-WAN to get them back to that main data center for their PBX. And that was a solution where we utilized 3 different transport types fiber internet, spectrum coax, and 5G cellular. And by the way, on the cellular stuff, we're using, on the 5G, we're using T-Mobile and Verizon. On the 4G, we're using Verizon and AT&T. So the next slide is the drawing of kind of what that looks like. What makes this a little unique, very common that you would see fiber and coax in SD-WAN, or fiber and 5G or 4G. But on this particular one, they wanted a third option. We did the 5G with static IPs, 3 methods of transport, created liability, and their cost increase was not that drastic, going from their Ethernet network with their old internet into more of an SD-WAN play with creating all this redundancy. So just keep in mind that you can utilize different methods of primary and backup circuits with all these different tools in your toolbox on the circuit side of things. So that was a pretty cool case study based on the different types of circuits that were deployed in that. All right, and then to finish things up here, if you guys don't already know, PartnerLink is our Spectrum portal for the partner channel. And PartnerLink has all kinds of tools and resources in there. It has a lot of useful things, mail outs that you can co-brand your logos into and mail out to your clients. It allows you to track and know whether people are viewing your stuff or not. All of our pricing on our rate cards is out there. So if you're not currently part of our PartnerLink, I would encourage you to sign up. If you need a demo on that, we have a great marketing person, Mackenzie, that's more than willing to kind of give you a walkthrough of how to navigate around within PartnerLink. But I would encourage everyone to get signed up if you're not today, and utilize our partner website and some of the useful tools and co-branding things that are available out there today. So I believe that is our last slide, and we can open things up for questions. Do we have any questions?
Chris Hall probably wants to know how much money he racked up in gift cards.
Enough to have a nice weekend. Yeah, guys. So look, the key thing in all of this that we do in the IT world is don't go into every business thinking they're cookie cutter, because the same customer that has multiple locations could feasibly have a coax in some remote sites and high cost fiber with redundant carrier circuits at some of their other sites. They could have applications that require more of a layer 2 Ethernet solution, or they have situations where I need to back up data or move traffic into the cloud. So just try to understand where that data is being routed. Are they doing things in the internet, or do they have in-house servers? But it's important to understand how they're moving that data around, what's mission critical to them, and then bringing together multiple variations of circuits and solutions to pull all that together and suit their needs. So if there are no questions, Richard?
Hey,
We do
Jim,
have
I think there
one-
was
we do have one
a
from
question in the
Chris.
chat
Yeah.
about, yep, go ahead, Jason.
Oh, yeah, no, he's asking if we service Canada at all, and the answer is that no, we're US based only for Ethernet and finished internet.
That's right.
And Denala had her hand up if she wanted to continue asking a question.
Well, look.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Denella.
Hi
You can come
guys,
off mute.
sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Hey,
I'm so
Janelle.
sorry about that. I was actually just having a conversation with my team lead, Akinola, in regards to, I mean, this seems like a very technical meeting, all right, and there was a lot of information. So essentially, what I was conveying to him is, in our field of things, because we're essentially sales, when we do interact with customers, how can we digest the information outside of the availability that it would have from Cable Finder? How do we now digest and transfer that information when needed to the clients or the calls that we are on? So essentially, that was my question, and I was sort of in the background discussing that with Akinola, because we do not yet have access to the partner link either. So yeah, essentially that was it.
Yeah, so I can jump in there and give you my opinion on that. I mean, leverage your resources. I know maybe some of this was maybe a little on the technical side.
Yeah.
All of us are resources, myself, Jason, Andy, Richard. Pull us into those deals, even if it's your first meeting. Actually, that's the best time to pull us in. We will help you ask the right questions, pull together all the information we need, and provide a solution. So don't feel like you need to know all this stuff. Utilize your resources, and we will help you from the first call of that meeting to you closing the contract.
Okay, so essentially, I mean, you are breaking up, but I think I got the gist of it. So the actual call flow of things, our calls are immediate, and you made a valid point there. Once we do have the ear of the client, it will be great, and we actually exercise that in regards to discovering the pain points, etc. But now is the understanding of, I I believe, like the conversion of what best suits. So I mean, we do have to process the information what we just received here, you know. Uh but is there a way where this can, and again that's what I was discussing, where this can be uh less technical, so, and less, not only less technical to us, but less technical to the clients, because our first contact aren't IT people. They are the gatekeepers are usually, let's say, like the secretary or like an office manager. It's hardly ever the owner. So now how do we, transmit that need from the technical basis of what we know here, for instance, the three-way backup now, to what they are telling us in discovery, which will be the first point of a conversation we have with them.
So I think what you're asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, is how do you go in and get some of that information in a non-technical conversation? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, and if it's technical for me, it's technical for my first point of contact, which is the client. So how do we make
Yeah.
it
So
simple?
so what I typically try to do, one, you got to understand who your audience is, and there's a lot of times where my customer is not a technical person at all, and you have to go into a whole different conversation with that customer. Like, I don't use the term switches, routers, and stuff like that. I'll say the box that you use to plug all your computers into. Sometimes you got to kind of explain things more in layman's terms And then, talk about how important is your internet. Like if it's that important to you, that's where you want to think about adding other methods of diversity for adding a secondary circuit and what's involved in doing that. But you just, all of us probably on the technical side learn to communicate in a non-technical way sometimes when we have customers that aren't necessarily technical. You have to try to relay the questions in a non-technical way to still, figure out where their pain points are within that business and what do we need to do to fix it.
Right. So that's what we do, right? And we have lived, because I mean that's how we communicate. So that's exactly what we do. We bring it down to a very conversational level once we do have, their ear. So now, for instance, the benefit of that diversity, what you just spoke about,
Mhm.
and our job is to essentially give conversions, and even if we are speaking to the right person, how do we, and I guess we have to think about it, but I was just wondering, how do we now translate this good news of for instance, the three-way backups, etc. And also, I'm not sure if that option, it would be visible to us in Cable Finder, so we'd know, okay, when we do put in the address and Spectrum is available, this option is available as well. Or is it that we could negotiate with them, tell them, hey, we're just going to do some background research, have a conversation with you guys, get all the information, and call them back.
Yeah, I would
So it's
say
just a matter of the call flow that I'm thinking about.
yeah, I would say when you get into one that's a little more technical or involved, I'm going to go back to saying you can reach out to any one of us directly, pull us into those conversations and allow us, even if we got to ask questions at a very simple way, let us get in there and help you ask some of them questions and figure out what's needed to be able to put a solution together. Again, that can be on the very front end. If you think you have a valid opportunity, all of us are here to help you be successful. If you think it's something a little more involved than what you're comfortable having that conversation with.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. All right. Well, yeah, sounds good. Thank you. That was it.
Yeah, good questions. All right, anything else? Richard, do you want to close things out for us?
Absolutely. I think we have one more question from Chris Hall, just real quick.
Okay.
It looks like he has a Cable Finder question. He's wondering if we can configure these options to quote through Cable Finder.
Yeah, I'm not sure any of us sales engineers know that on the Spectrum side.
I can tell you a lot of the data transport stuff or the more unique products. While some of them will pop up in Cable Finder, I would say it's best to get a quote directly either through your channel manager or through our back office team, and we can hone in on the exact products that you need for your end user. Yeah, no problem, Chris. Also, very well done on the questions, you and Camelia. Taking home some gift cards. All right. So with that being said, that concludes the Spectrum Masterclass for today. We hope you're walking away with much more comprehensive understanding of Spectrum's data transport products and services. And then we've already done our Q&A. We were ending about 5 minutes early, so no other questions. If there are other questions, feel free to reach out to any of your resources, channel managers, anybody at Innovative. We're happy to help and provide some more clarity and or resources for you. And on that note, we can go ahead and end the masterclass and stop the recording. And thank you all for joining and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.